Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something you use pretty much every single day, but probably don't think about twice: translation. It's this invisible force that connects our entire world, and trust me, it's way more complicated than you think. So let's just start with a really common idea. When you hear the word translation, what pops into your head? Is it just swapping one word for another? Like looking up the French word for dog in a dictionary? If that's what you're picturing, hey, you are not alone. But the reality is so much more interesting. Translation isn't some mechanical copy-paste job. It is a deeply complex act of communication that builds a bridge, not just between two languages, but between two entire worlds. So to really get this, we've got to move way beyond that simple idea of swapping words and take a look at what's actually happening under the hood. At its very core, you can think of it like a two-step dance. First, the translator has to completely get inside the original text. They have to interpret not just the words, but the meaning, the subtext, the tone, all of it. And only after they've done that can they even begin to try and recreate that message for a totally new audience, in a different language. And this whole process creates this really fascinating tension, something that translators call the double bind. Basically, they're being pulled in two opposite directions all the time. On one hand, they're looking backwards. They've got to be faithful to the original text, right? They need to preserve its core meaning. That's what we call semantic equivalence. But at the exact same time, they have to look forward. The final translation has to sound natural and actually work for the new reader. That means adapting the style and the way the language is used, which is called pragmatic equivalence. It's a constant, tricky balancing act. And this balancing act? It has fueled a massive debate that's been raging for, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of years. How loyal should you be to the original words versus the overall feeling of the message? This tension forces a big choice. Do you go word for word? It's super faithful to the original sentence structure, but you risk it sounding really clunky and weird, alienating the new reader. Or do you go sense for sense? This is a much freer approach that focuses on the big picture, making sure the text feels totally at home and integrated into the new culture. And just look at how long people have been wrestling with this. This debate goes all the way back to ancient Rome with thinkers like Cicero. It had huge religious implications, like when Martin Luther's freer translation of the Bible literally helped create the modern German language. The very terms we use today, alienating versus integrating, were coined way back in the 19th century. So yeah, this is not a new problem. But you know what? The dilemma gets even deeper, because translators aren't just jumping between two sets of words. They're jumping between two entire cultures. This is so key. A really great translator isn't just bilingual. They have to be bicultural. They need to get the context, the history, the inside jokes, all the shared knowledge that gives words their real power. If you don't have that, you're just scratching the surface. I mean, think about it. How would you even begin to translate a reference to November 11th in the UK for someone in America where that date doesn't have the same meaning? Or what about an English idiom that comes from the sport of cricket? If you translate it literally, it's just going to be nonsense. These things are soaked in culture, and you need that cultural key to unlock them. Okay, so with all this mind-bending complexity of language and culture, it leads us right to the big tech question of our era. Can a machine ever really, truly do this job? Now, for a long time, we've had tools for computer-assisted translation, or CAT tools. It's important to know these don't replace the human translator. They act more like a superpowered assistant, helping with repetitive stuff and building databases to keep things consistent. And this is really where you see the divide. Machines are absolute beasts at churning through huge volumes of repetitive text, like technical manuals with very specific terms. But humans, we're still essential for anything that needs a creative spark, cultural nuance, and a deep understanding of context. Think poetry, marketing slogans, or high-stakes diplomacy. So, the translator's role isn't vanishing. It's just evolving. The future is looking more like a partnership. The machine does the heavy lifting, and then the human expert comes in as a quality control specialist, editing, refining, and adding that crucial layer of cultural understanding that machines just can't replicate. Yet. So let's bring it all home. Why does understanding any of this matter right now in our daily lives? Well, just look around. We're living through an absolute explosion in the demand for translation. It's being driven by globalization, the internet, online shopping, you name it. For any idea or product to really go global, it has to be localized. meaning it has to be perfectly adapted for different local cultures. And translation is the absolute key to making that happen. So in the end, translation isn't just some side effect of globalization. It's one of the main ingredients making it possible. It's this invisible art that allows culture, knowledge, and business to flow across borders. It literally shapes how we see the world and how we see each other. So the next time you read a novel from another country or use an app in your own language, just take a second to appreciate the complex, creative, and absolutely crucial human act of translation that made that possible.